How upside thinking can make you a bestseller on Amazon. Today on Brand Tales.
Brand tales, all your brand tales. Listen to how the greatest brands came to be.
Hey there, this is Holly Chantel, your host and the founder of The Land of Brand, and welcome back to Brand Tales, where we are interviewing the industry's top coaches and getting the stories behind their brands. So we're talking their successes, their failures, and the golden nuggets you can learn from their journeys to apply to your own business. Today we are talking to Lisa Marie Platske, who is near and dear to my heart, as pretty much all of my guests are, as you've probably noticed. And Lisa Marie has gone from LEO, law enforcement officer, to CEO, chief enthusiasm officer of her business. What she does is she helps businesses become leaders in their industry. She does leadership training, she speaks, she offers a annual summit called the Leadership Success Summit, where businesses come together every year to develop a millionaire mindset and to get the tools they need to move forward that year. And she is just an all around fantastic lady. Plus, recently she became a #1 Amazon bestseller, and we're going to be talking to her about how she did that. So let's go ahead and talk to Lisa Marie. Welcome, Lisa Marie. I am so glad to be interviewing you on Brand Tales. I've been looking forward to this for a while.
And I am excited to be here. You are somebody who is so near and dear to my heart, and I know that we're going to have fun together.
Oh yes, we are. We've already been having fun.
That's true.
All right. So, what I find really interesting about you, because we worked on your branding and everything, is the police badge piece, like your background. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how you went from law enforcement to becoming a coach? Because I just think that's so interesting.
Well, and thank you. And thank you for pulling that out because actually, before you and I started doing work together, it was a part that was somewhat hidden. I would talk about it here and there. It would come out, a little bit here. It would kind of play hide and seek, but it was never really part of my brand because I didn't know how to make it authentically work with what I was doing. So many of the clients that I worked with had backgrounds in working either in corporate America or having small businesses. And so not having that business background, how do you share that and not have people, be freaked out or just simply be in awe or not see the correlation? And I believe there's a huge correlation to that work that I've done. So I just want to, a big shout out to you to say thank you for pulling that out of me. And so, the transition, making that transition, I had this fabulous job in federal law enforcement and I loved what I did. But I never had the desire to be this entrepreneur or have my own business. It was actually through life experience that had that happen. And when I made the decision to do that, there was that big, okay, how do I blend the two? But I had always been involved in leadership development, and I had taught at the Leadership Development Center, and I had taught at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center, and I had coached and mentored people. So this wasn't something that was brand new, like, oh, gee, we're just going to decide to, why not be a coach? It really was something that was part of the work that I was doing. And so when I opened the business and made that transition, the leadership part was just it was to me so foundational that many small business owners didn't use that in incorporating how they were going to grow their business, creating that strategic plan, being able to use their personality. Once again, creating a brand, all of that is centered around leadership. And so this was something that for me, being able to bring that in and bring those elements in allowed me to more naturally use the gifts that I have. And so, once again, just, thanks for making that possible.
Yes, and I think that that's such an interesting segue. You said that going from law enforcement to leadership is not really that much of a leap, and
Yeah.
there's always pieces of people's backgrounds that they might not realize can really be used in their business, and like they almost ignore it because they don't see that immediate correlation. And you've really brought it to the forefront. So can you tell me about that moment that you decided to start your business?
Sure, sure, absolutely. My husband and I were we were living in different states, and we were both in law enforcement and loved what we were doing. But for me, I had worked in New York, and then I taught at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center in Georgia, and was working in Texas at the Leadership Development Center. And this was post 9/11,
Mm.
so crisis and agencies changing, and I was put on a special task force to develop curriculum and then teach that curriculum. But my husband and I had this separate life going on
Right.
outside. And when he proposed, I just thought I'd keep living in Texas and keep doing my thing. And friends of ours said, people who get married usually live in the same households. And so, right, gee, what a thought. And so I started to think about this, and we had a conversation. And I said, what would you think if I left? And at first, my husband thought I was crazy. My family thought I was crazy. But then it was the whole thing about what do you do? And I was originally recruited by it was actually an organization that housed 5 police academies to be the director of their training there. And so I was really thinking about going back into the law enforcement after I made that decision. And then I said, well, geez, this work in leadership is something that I love.
Hmm.
So I'm not having a clue about business, never taking a business class, not having anybody in my family being in business. I decided to be a business owner, and so when I made that decision, it was really about my values, and I think that's so important to business. And
Absolutely.
my values, they had to do with freedom and fun and flexibility. And so what's the opportunity that a career, that a job, that a business, any opportunity can give you to live out your values? And so in looking at that, I really wanted to create something that would give me the opportunity to spend time with my husband, do something that I love, and impact and influence lives. And so opening my own business, a leadership training and consulting business, made perfect sense for me. So hence Upside Thinking was born.
Yay, that's a good story, and I just want to point out, like, you don't have many people don't have a background in business. A lot of the people I've been talking to in these interviews, like someone in the family was an entrepreneur, and I just love hearing your story of, I wasn't an entrepreneur. I had no idea what I was doing. So
No
that's
clue.
so, I mean, and look at you now. That so speaks to who you are too. Like you just take it
Well,
right on.
thank you. Thank you. Because it was, I did. I thought, well, I'll just start talking to people and telling them what I do. And, looking back, if I knew then what I know now, I would have been like, are you out of your mind, girl? Like, if I would have had a conversation with me back then, are you crazy? Do you really? I mean, a business card and a smile, and that was really it. And, so a lot of mistakes and a lot of trial and error, but through all of that, a lot of success too. So
Right.
that's really the blessing of it all. But yeah, the mistakes, there continue to be many.
There will always be. I consider business to be an experiment. There is always going to be something new that you haven't done, and that's either going to blow up in your face or it's going to be woohoo! This is awesome.
Right. That's exactly it. Yes.
So
Yes.
tell
Thank
me about
heavens for that.
right. So tell me about the story behind the name Upside Thinking. Where did that come from?
But you know what? And I wish that there was this genius, that just exploded in me to come up with the name. But actually, it's a pretty funny story. My husband, when I met him, he had this entire cave in his house that had all this stuff with upside thinking. And he had branded the name, he had sent it out for licensing and everything. Because when he retired, he had this thought that he was going to move into business and that his company was going to be upside thinking, right? And I was playing around with different names. And one day my husband said, why don't you take the name of the business? Now that sounds great and all, but my husband and I have very different personalities and very different ideas for that. And so upside thinking was actually my husband's genius. And really one of the things that, brought us together is that thought of being an upside thinker. And so we did a lot of brainstorming around it. what the funniest part about this, Holly, is that today, if you ask my husband if he wants to be in business for himself, he says that after watching me, there is no way that he will ever go into business for himself because he really thought business was getting to deliver training and stuff.
Right.
And when he sees the sales and the marketing and the technology and the branding, and his mind is just exploded.
Right.
so,
So
so,
might he want to work for you?
Actually, we've talked about that, and he said that, what he'd be willing to do is if I got the contracts and everything, he'd be willing to deliver the work, but he isn't going to sell for me. He isn't going to market for me. He said he'd go places and open books for me to sign them and autograph them. So he'll carry things and do the heavy lifting, but
Right. And
it's
that's
true.
such a good point. And I think
Mhm.
that a lot of people think that when they're that having a business that's around something you're passionate about means that that's all you're going to do, and it's not.
Right,
You have to do the
right.
marketing, the sales, the all of the business side of things too.
Yeah. Yes, or find people who are genius enough to do them for you, like you. So, I
Yeah,
don't have to do it
hiring.
all.
Yeah, that's true. And you have a really good team too that works for you because I've worked with them
Yes,
and I like them.
yes. Thank you.
I
Thank
approve
you.
of your team.
Thank you.
So, tell me, you just said something about your talents. So tell me if you were to describe your talents as superpowers, what would they be?
Ooh, I like that. And I love the whole superhero thing because I think that the talent of being able to walk through buildings or things like that is not as powerful as really being able to see things that other people can't see. And I feel that's a real gift of mine. And I think it comes from the law enforcement. I was just at an event at a business retreat recently, and there were six of us at a table. And I was having a conversation with one woman, and then the four other people at the table were having another conversation. And one of the gentlemen said, I'd love to stay back and have us talk because at dinner we really didn't get to talk, even though we went to dinner together. It was really, and then it was a couple separate conversations, that broke off, but we just weren't sitting next to each other. So he brought something up from dinner and he said, well, because you weren't in the conversation. And I said, yeah, but I said, Fred said this and you said that and whatever. And he goes, that's amazing. And I said, from law enforcement, one of the gifts that I have, and this is one of the things that I really do with clients, is that I can pay attention to more things than most people and be fully present where I am.
Hmm.
So I wasn't not present or paying attention. It's just that when you're in law enforcement, you're assessing situations around you and there's never nothing going on. So you have to make sure that you're aware of everything around you. And so I'm able to grasp and pay attention to that. And so sometimes when people are speaking, there's things that come up that is getting in the way of their positioning, that is getting in the way of really their genius and people being able to see it. And it comes out sometimes in their words, comes out sometimes in their body language, it comes out in a variety of ways. And I'm able to see things that other people miss. Sometimes it's internal, sometimes it's external, but it is a gift that I've had. Even as a little kid, my grandfather said, you have the ability to change the room's energy when you walk in it. And I was 9. And he said, for the better. And it is that ability to notice what people need and be able to then, provide it. And so I really believe that's a superhero gift. And, I think it is almost like, being able to see through people so that, that invisible,
Yeah.
the eye that sees what is not necessarily right up in front of you, the obvious, if you will.
Right. I
So,
love that. So seeing what people need versus what they're saying they need,
mhm,
or yeah.
yeah. And that's always really hard. I'm sure you probably get a little bit of that as well in your business because, people think they have a clear idea of what it is that they need, but sometimes, there's a lot of reasons why that comes up. And so being able to share with them in a way that's really kind and loving that, well, maybe, but let's explore this and ensure that you're giving them what they actually need and not
Hmm.
simply just what they want. So
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
And that, I mean, that's the hallmark of a really good coach like yourself, like to be able to see that and then be able to, like you said, to deliver it in a loving way and to give them what they need. That's important.
Yes, yes, because I do know people where it's like, well, you're so stupid. How come you can't see it? And I'm thinking, yeah, that's not real effective.
That's not how I'd say that.
Yes, yeah.
So that's,
Oh
I mean, that
God.
speaks a lot to your personality. Um, and we talked a little bit last week about your book launch, and you had some really good lessons, and I'd like to talk about that again for the listeners.
Ah.
So, tell us about your book first. What is the title? When did it launch?
So the last one is Turn Possibilities into Reality. And that launch was on March 17th, which is St. Patrick's Day.
Woohoo!
And yes, it's actually a big deal. It was a big deal in my family, even though we're not Irish. So a whole other story there. and so the launch went well in the sense that the book became a bestseller during the day. It reached number one in the U.S. and Canada, in Australia, and then it also reached the top of the charts in the UK and in Germany as well. So
So I
that was
just
a
have to say
big deal.
that's I,
So
I know you're excited, but that really excites me just thinking
no,
about that.
yeah,
So,
I was at the edge of my seat, and I can honestly tell you that for all the successes that I've had, Holly, I didn't really I don't want to say that I didn't expect it, but it involves so many people getting behind you and really loving on you. And the comments that came back, it was a surprise. And it is it's something I'm very proud of, really proud of.
great. So tell me about that moment, because I think that people like are looking at authors like it's like, oh yeah, they're number one bestseller, like that must have been pretty cool. But tell me like what that moment felt like when you saw that, because it was pretty late at night, wasn't it, when you finally hit the number one spot in the U.S.
Right. So that was exactly it. It went number one in Canada, and yes, it was a bestseller in the U.S. But I was fighting for a top spot with Ariana Huffington, and so it was, in the U.S. I knew that it involved a bit more work, and I was on the computer and I'm talking to people and asking people to support this and people to really go out and share with those that are their lists. And of course, there's so much that goes on, behind the scenes before the day of the launch. But, in doing that, I just had this, I was very excited, but there also was this exhaustion feeling,
Hmm.
like, you put so much effort into it. And how many times do we do that in life where we have something that we really want, we put so much effort, and for me, it came down to surrender. Like the book was at number two, and I had to say to myself at 10 o'clock at night, what's the worst thing that happens? Like, it's still a best selling book. It's still in the hands of a lot of people, and it still has the ability to change lives.
Hmm.
So, will this make me feel less as a person if it's number two? And I think that that's a question that for many different things in life that I've had to ask myself that question. If this doesn't work out the way I want it, am I still going to be okay? What does this mean for me? And so at that moment, I made a decision to reach out to somebody who has a high level of influence in the in the business world, and asked him to step up and to support this book. And I said, you're on the West Coast, and so I'm going to go to sleep. I've done all that I can, and I'm really asking for your support. And whatever you can do, I'm going to be okay with it, and I'm just going to surrender that if this was meant to be, that it will be. And if it wasn't, it's okay. That I still, love my work and love
Hmm.
me and everything that I've put into that. And that was a really big moment for me to be in that place. And he said he would do everything that he could, and really came behind me and sent it out to his list and asked people to individually to respond to people with personal messages, and they did. And the book hit number one. And when I woke up in the morning and found out, because I had hired somebody to kind of watch the book launch, and other people were watching for me, and I had gotten the news, it was just this feeling of elation, but also it was a feeling of just pure love that regardless of whether it did or it didn't, that my work is good. And I don't necessarily need that for validation. And there's something beautiful about surrendering and
Hmm.
giving something up and then having it come to you so easily and so naturally versus me staying up till midnight and forcing it and calling every
Hmm.
person. And getting on my hands and knees and just pleading, but truly going to bed and knowing that I was in a good place, and that was a lesson that for me I take for forever and ever about
Hmm.
how that difference between pushing versus being pushed by fear versus pulled by a vision.
Mm.
When you're pulled by a vision, things happen more naturally. When you're pushed by fear, oh my gosh, if something doesn't happen, if I don't get this, it's different energy, different, allowing, things to happen for you and trusting that everything that's happening for you is for your greatest good. Whether
Hmm.
it's number two or whether it's number one, it's still for your greatest good.
Right.
And so anyway, I'll stop there. But so many lessons, Holly, so many
I know
lessons
I'm
to
like picking
talk
up all
about.
these different snippets, and I just want to spotlight that question you just asked, like, am I okay with this? Like, is this going to make me less of a person? Because I think a lot of times, like, you go into something with a goal, and if you don't hit that goal, it can make you like lose a little bit of self-esteem. And I think that
Yeah.
people need to recognize that beforehand, like you did, like before the goal has been hit or not hit, that it's okay. And like to be okay with the result before, instead of like waiting till that last second, like you said, and then it comes anyway, and it's like icing on the cake. And then
Yeah.
the other thing I wanted to spotlight, because I know this about you, and I want to make sure that our listeners know about you. You are like the ultimate connector. Like, people that know you love you, and you know pretty much everyone in the industry, and like in a not a in a oh, I know them, I can name drop way kind of way, but in a way that like you know them and they love you, and you because you're such a giving person, and that's the type of people that we want to work with. And so the fact that you were able to reach out to that person, at 10 o'clock on what was that, like a Tuesday night or something,
Yeah.
and be
Yeah.
like, I need your help, please. Like, if you feel moved to do this, then, I'd love your help. And he was like, yeah, let's do this, and started emailing everyone else for you. And, just, I mean, that speaks to a lot of who you are. And another lesson to take away from that for people is that those relationships are not done overnight. Like, chances are you've known that person for a while, and you've gotten to know them, and you've done favors for each other and that kind of thing. So it's not, don't just start getting to know people because you have a product launch coming up or something like that. Like, take the time to make the relationships. And that's a lesson I've learned over the last couple of years. And part of that was you as an example. So I just wanted to share
Well,
that.
thank you. Thank you. I think that's so true. I think, it's you either love people or you don't, right? You
Hmm.
can't only love them when you have something that's coming up for
Right.
you, right?
Right.
And so, people to me really mean something. And what's fascinating, I think, about something like that, like the launch, is there's people who I know couldn't help me because maybe something was going on in their life or whatever. But that doesn't mean that they think less of me or that my book is less important or
Hmm.
anything like that. It's really trusting that the right people will be there when you need them, because if you're putting into that relationship bank account,
Hmm.
there's always going to be a payoff. It doesn't necessarily come from the same place, but really you're generally always in a place of service versus service and connection versus anything else, any
Hmm.
other. So I thank you for bringing that up, because I think that's just so important.
And how do you keep in touch with your network? Because I know that's a challenge for me, like being able to, because I might forget to follow up with someone or forget to check in with someone. And then I feel like I am only checking in with them when like I need something, and I don't want to have that happen. So how do you manage that?
I believe very much that people create business plans, they create marketing plans, but very few people create connection plans.
Hmm.
And so it's like anything else. It doesn't happen just magically because you remember. It doesn't happen because you show up. It has to be something that is, strategically part of who you are. And for me, I can't manage to write handwritten notes to everyone that I think of or that is important to me. And so one of the things that I've done is I've hired somebody with really great handwriting. And so it's true. And I will create the sentiment, and I will remember birthdays or special days or anniversaries or even just Like, for example, I have somebody who I know is having a huge event on September 30th. And so we'll send something to her house. It might be a card, it might be flowers, it might be something like that. But because that's important and I understand what a big deal that is. And so it's already on the agenda. Will it happen from me? The sentiment will be mine, but I'm not going to be the one to make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so just like you hire someone for marketing or you hire somebody for strategy, I hire somebody for connection to make sure that that's an important, that's a high level activity in my business. And so I have a list of people who I want to stay connected because they're that kind of giving person that I would do anything for.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't want that to go aside. So I have that person, number one. Number two, I make sure that once a month that I'm reaching out to people who are important to me. They differ. The other thing is I ensure that when I have somebody's great work, I do my very best. And I'm not always great at this, but it's one of those things that's actually in my calendar to give a testimonial for the work. And a good testimonial, not just this person did good work, but really, here's where I was before, here's what happened with this person, and you better work with this person because it's magic. And so, being able to do that. And so I think that the staying in touch is really an intentional part to care about people, love on people, and be able to do things to give back, much like you would set up in your business for any of the other components, whether it be a financial plan or a marketing plan.
Right. Good. That's great advice, and I love that you've found a way to fit it into your schedule where you're still giving the sentiment, but you have someone else like kind of remembering to do it, because that's probably the most difficult part.
Yeah, exactly.
So I
Yeah,
have a
and
couple.
she'll follow up with me. I'm sorry.
Sorry, go ahead. She'll follow up.
No, and she'll follow up with me. So sort of like, the accountability, like, where is it? So it's, that's a good thing. I need that.
Good. Great. So I'm going to ask just a couple questions that I'm asking everyone to kind of get some resources for listeners and that we can add to the blog post. So some things that are your favorites. So the first one is, what is your favorite tool that you use in your business?
Ooh, favorite tool happens to be my Harlan Kardon headset. It's my absolute favorite. It's right here. So it's just a wireless headset that goes around. It's just, little things pull out, go in my ears, and happy to absolutely love this baby because I can be taking business calls and, wandering around anywhere, and I'm not attached to a device. So it's fantastic.
Awesome. I think
That's pretty
I've
fun.
actually seen those, and I was thinking about checking them out. So thank you for that little vote of confidence.
You're welcome. Well, this particular one, so there's a lot of different ones, but this Harman Kardon is the quality of sound is just
Really good.
unreal.
Awesome.
So,
And what is your guilty pleasure?
guilty pleasure, something that I'm allowed to disclose. Honestly, it's going to sound really crazy, but my guilty pleasure is having a Wiener Schnitzel hot dog when I go to California. I know it sounds absolutely crazy, and for some people, really, really gross, especially people who are super healthy or clean eaters. But when I was a little kid, my mom was a single mom, and so she raised my sister and I on very little money. She made less than $13,000 a year. My dad didn't contribute financially, and she did her best to provide a really great environment for us. But we couldn't afford to go out to eat. So going out to eat was a really big deal, and we just didn't do it. And once a week, my mom would take us, or once a paycheck, I don't even think it was once a week, I think it was like once every 2 weeks, she would take us out to Wiener Schnitzel because their hot dogs were like 39 cents and the fries were like 39 cents. And I know it's like 39-cent quality, I get it, but it has that memory,
Right.
that's attached to it whenever I see it. And so is it the yummiest food in the world? No. Does it sometimes make my belly not feel good? Yes, but I love it. And it's just something that is, and I say a guilty pleasure because there's guilt every time I eat this hot dog. So there's probably a whole long list of other things I could share with you, but that one is just so meaningful because every time I do it, I'm like, oh, I shouldn't be doing this. And I'm in the drive-thru and I know that I shouldn't be doing it. Right, my friends will say to me when I come to California, like, did you get your Wiener Schnitzel? You shouldn't do that. And I'm like, I know.
That's kind of part of the fun, though.
So I had it twice this trip, so.
That is awesome.
Oh, yes.
Good story too. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, there's just a reason, right? So
And what is
crazy.
your favorite business book?
My favorite business book is, God, good grief. I mean, I could give you ones on leadership. I can give you ones on, it's just so many. But because I love the art of positioning, the original book by Jack Trout and Al
I
Reese
have that
on
book.
positioning. Do you? Yeah, and it's such a simple, small read, and it's a great book.
Mhm.
I'm actually in the process of reading Shark Tales, which is one of my mentors just told me that I really have to read it. And so, it's just, my leadership challenge. I know you asked for one, but there's just, you know, aren't books amazing? The stuff
Oh,
that you can
yes.
learn.
Absolutely. And last question, if you were a fairy tale character, who or what would you be?
Oh, the fairy tale character. Ooh. So do I have to pick a particular genre, like Marvel Comics versus Disney or something like
You can
that,
have whatever you
or
want.
I can have anything. You know what? Then this is actually does it's not really fairy tale, but it's more along the lines of what you talked about earlier, which is that superhero. And can I do that? Can I
Yeah.
pick that, or does
Yeah.
it
You
have to
can
be
even make
fairy?
one up.
Okay, so no, you know what? Um, I absolutely loved as a kid, Wonder Woman, and
Hmm.
so I was going to grow up and be Linda Carter. I mean, I was just, I was so in love with that character for a variety of reasons, and I think that's the whole thing with my business is that transformation. We're in the business of transformation, and the ability to save the planet or save one person, from whatever is to me a huge responsibility that heart-centered business owners and that somebody who just makes the decision to go into business for themselves that's the reason why that's so important. I wouldn't want to be Mickey Mouse or anything like that, but the idea of being somebody who could do that and
Hmm.
have superpowers to be able to change the world and make the world a better place. That for me, because I already did the Charlie's Angels thing, so
I can definitely see that for you.
yeah,
Though the Charlie's Angels, I can also see that.
yeah.
That would be kind of fun. But yeah,
So yeah.
that's again
Well,
very
remember, I had a different look then, right? I
yeah.
had my long blonde hair and
Yes, you'll have to go to, I think that's on your about page, right? That story of you and the Reeboks and the on the pier in New
yeah,
York.
my nails and
Yeah.
oh Lord, yes, I
Yes,
was
you need to go to
hot.
her website and read her about page for that story of her in law enforcement in New York. It's hilarious.
Well, you pulled it out of me, and I can't tell you how many people to this day will still send me messages on Facebook saying, "I went to your About Me page, and oh my gosh, I read from the beginning to the and laughed my head off." So thank you for allowing me to be vulnerable enough to put someone out there.
Yes, it was all good. So tell us how do we get in touch with you? So where is your website? What's the best way to reach you?
The website is www.upsidethinking.com. So that's UPSIDE, and then the word thinking, THINKING.com, upsidethinking.com. And to reach me, it would be Lisa Marie, LISAMARIE, at upsidethinking.com.
Perfect. And you have a free offer on your site, right?
I do. I do. You made me come.
Right?
Right? Wink, wink. It's
So
really,
I don't remember
yeah.
what it's called. Do you know what the freebie is on the website right now?
Um, yes, it's actually about how to position yourself.
Perfect.
But do I know the fancy schmancy title for it?
Probably
No.
not.
So,
But good. So information about how to position yourself, and you're an expert in leadership, so I know that there's information there. So if you're interested in learning more about Lisa Marie and her work, then definitely go to upsidethinking.com, and I will put that URL at the bottom of the blog post, along with all the resources that she shared today, so that you can make sure that you take advantage of all of Lisa Marie's wisdom. So thank you so much for being here today. This was so much fun.
It was. It was a great time. Always love hanging out with you,
Yes,
Holly.
ditto. We always have a good time. And
Yeah.
for those that are listening, I hope you had a good time as well. And thank you for joining us for another episode of Brand Tales. I would love to hear your feedback in the comments on the blog or leave a review on iTunes or Stitcher. And if you haven't yet, make sure that you subscribe to the community so that you can get reminders and the resources from each of our episodes so you don't miss a thing. So I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your week, and I will see you next time.
Yay. Thank you. Thank you so much, Holly. And thanks for everyone who's listened. Yay.
Bye.
Bye.